Thanks, Lynette and Craig. Now I'm very pleased to introduce our keynote speaker for the day. Leeanne Bond. I will keep this brief because Leeanne does have a long list of accomplishments and we really do need to hear from her and not me. Leeanne Bond has a stack of board experience across a range of public, private and government entities. Key ones relevant for us include Snowy Hydro, the Clean Energy Finance Corporation and Oricon, where she's a current director. Leeanne is a chemical engineer, a UQ alumni, and as the first female president of Engineers Australia in 2002, is a fantastic role model for our industry. More specific to the challenges that we are facing with the energy transition and the opportunity for the battery supply chain in Australia, Leeanne is the newly appointed chair of the Queensland Energy System Advisory Board and is currently charged and ready as the chair of the Minerals to Megawatts CRC, which I'm sure we will hear more about. Welcome, Leeanne, and I do understand that you are open to questions at the end. Thank you.
So I'll need a signal when you want me to wrap up. But thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here, and I actually really think I knew about the Australia Battery Day, but again, it's sort of come out of, and it's become a huge thing, so I was really pleased. Thank you to Lynette, there she is, AMBC, and for the words that have been spoken. I won't go through all the policy announcements, there are so many of them, and you've just heard a great overview. And also to the universities and the industry people here and to the government. Graham knows that I was negotiating very hard with state development, and you're not out of my sights because the Queensland government did sign up for the CRC bid back in March when we first kicked off. So I will run through a bit of a personal reflection why I do what I do, and then give you a few examples of what it's like for me at the boardroom. First of all, I'd just like to say, congratulations to everyone that's trying to do this. It's, as you've heard, it's not easy, but it's really important, and we've got some really clever people. I'd also just like to thank Josh for putting me up to give a speech. He must be here somewhere. Josh Watts. So if you want to know more detail about the CRC bid, there's a number of people here, but we might, have I got a clicker? So first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this event is taking place, and elders both past and present, and also recognise the ongoing effort to protect and promote Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures, which will leave a lasting legacy for future elders and leaders. I've been growing a lot in my understanding of how we can benefit from the amazing culture that Australia has in our Indigenous First Nations people, and that's a big part of our CRC bid. So who am I? Yeah, I was here in the 80s as a chemical engineer, came back a couple of times. I did some work on environmental management, thinking that might be a good extra on my chemical engineering, and got so busy travelling I couldn't do it because back then you had to go to lectures and nothing was online. And I came back again for an MBA, and it was just amazing. You just sit at home and do your work, but an amazing experience. My first 20 years was as a process engineer. Started off in oil and gas. Every chemical engineer in the 80s wanted to work for oil and gas. And then went into consulting engineering. And then things sort of moved, and I saw the industry move. And I remember when coal seam methane was first floated as a idea, and conferences, people would laugh at it. It's not bankable, and then it did happen, and now we're looking at transition again. So things will change. one reason I've done so many things, and it's 20 boards in 20 years, is I'm old. So, it'll happen to you too. So make sure you use your time wisely. Then I did engineering, design and management. I ran Worley in Brisbane. And then I was invited to join my first board, and it was actually a Queensland GOC. The chair had heard me speak as Queensland President of Engineers Australia and wanted me on his board. It took 7 months, but I definitely got eventually appointed, and I was very excited to join my first board. And then I had to understand what is governance about. So I'll give you a little snapshot of that. And then since I decided to go full-time into boards, I've also been involved very heavily in innovation and startups and technology. So my current roles, you've seen, there's one new one, which is super secret, but about to be announced, and I'll give you an early look at that. So the 1st of November, I was appointed Deputy Chair of a company called FPR Energy, which is a spin-out from CSIRO. And I was at the celebration dinner last night in Newcastle with CSIRO. So we'll be telling people a bit about that soon. You've heard about the other roles except for One Basin CRC. So I'm a director of One Basin CRC, which is Murray-Darling, which is water. Fixing the Murray-Darling, how hard can that be? So I love doing things that are really going to create impact. I also have good links to UQ with advisory boards and with QT for this bid. There's just a few previous roles, ANU and technology startups. I didn't put the one on there that I had to close down earlier this year because we couldn't get finance, so it's not just batteries. And this is circular economy, tyre recycling, absolutely what people say they want, and revenue, couldn't get money. So it is a hard world out there. Happy to talk to anyone about that. What do I do as a non-exec director? You probably all complain about your boards. Your board doesn't know anything. They want all this information. They don't trust us. Go and do the AICD course, and you'll come back going, oh, is that why you asked that question? It's actually your job. And I'm actually here to help, and I really want to get into that zone where you're working with executive on strategy and unlocking things for them. So I work on the right-hand side now. I started off on the left-hand side as an executive or consultant doing stuff. Now I'm more thinking and guiding and helping and holding people to account. And it is a big responsibility, but it is great if you get the right team. And this is something you'll learn about if you do that course. We work with and through the CEO, so I can't get in and do things, but I need a really good team. And if you can get that working, future-focused, but also looking at the past and the present, outward-looking, but also looking at your inward culture. So Mel and those that are on the board of AMBC are all across these things. So I thought it might be useful just to give you a frame. If you're struggling with where you need to go with people, have a look at that. So I do a lot of guiding at board level, and I hope I add value to every board. And to be honest, if I don't, I usually move on because my time is special to me and I want to make an impact. So this is FPR Energy, and I did get permission to put these slides up. It will be formally launched in a couple of weeks at a conference you'll probably all be at in Sydney. But it is, CSIRO has been working on solar thermal in Newcastle for many years, and we are now at a point where they have spun out that IP. We've got funding. We have a Japanese energy company that's coming in, CSIRO, and a venture capital fund called RFC Ambrian, and RFC Ambrian have done this 4 times already with CSIRO, so I said, you need a medal if you've done that. I'll be on the journey. If you put this deal together, I'll come in as deputy chair. So very quickly, this is a tower. There's a heliostats focusing solar to the top of the tower. Up the top is storage for mineral particles, so there's no salt. It's reduced a lot of the issues with solar thermal. And the particles fall through a solar collector and heat up and then go through a heat exchanger to remove that heat. And it is all over LinkedIn, but it's all very obscure. Watch this space, so you'll see a whole lot when we put the press release out soon. And then down the bottom, this is the back of a mirror. It's not a great photo, but if you can that's sending the sunlight up. What's so special is it's not only potentially power, but it's heat. And I must admit that's new to me. Industrial heat as a chemical engineer should be obvious, but there's a lot of applications that this will be able to help in addition to batteries and other things. So the technology is ready. It's been tested on sun at 1 megawatt, and we're going to build 50 megawatt demonstration. And it has been validated at 800 degrees. It can go to 1200 degrees. The duration of the storage depends on how big you make it. So I just wanted to let you know about that. The challenge is to make it cost competitive. That's always been the issue. And we think it can be cost competitive with gas peaking for heat. So that is all interesting. I just mentioned it to Lynette when I was doing my bio, and she said, "Oh, we want to know about that." So there could be things where the battery integration, it's all about all things for all people, and where does it fit? Here's another one. I stepped down as chair or a non-exec director of a company called Cinetec at the end of last year. After 6 years, I listed the company, which was a private company. It's now, it's tried 3 different technologies, and the third one is a microgrid solution, batteries, solar, and all the integration with that. And they've sold 3 units to Santos, and they're replacing diesel generators on their gas fields. And all things take time, and at one point I remember saying, well, just tell them we'll take it somewhere else if they don't want to go ahead. And Santos said, no, we've got rid of the generator. Well, you better start paying then. So, but even then, there's finance in place, there's orders, but it is still a slow pace. So they're now looking at other applications. I'm still a shareholder, but I feel like they're ready to move on. I just wanted to just comment on the scale of this change. Everyone in this room knows this, but I remember when major projects were, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now they're just mega projects. That used to be a thing once. Now they're just all mega projects. And what comes with it is scale and risk and complexity and interfaces and different sites. But also at the bottom there, it's really, you've got to think about some of these things as creating a new entity. So it may not be a company, it may be the project itself as a new company to deploy something. I won't go into any detail on Snowy, I'm happy to talk about that, but I was on the board for 9 years. In that 9 years when I first joined, I thought, this is amazing, these beautiful assets, how could we ever build this sort of thing now? And here we are, we're adding to the scheme. And the scheme was actually built piece by piece. There was a plan, and we're actually pretty well picking up the plan from the 70s and doing the next bit. But it's only because of the market, the change of the market, and the need for firming. Here's another thought piece. How do we hasten the transition? And I really think it's about building capacity, and things like A and BC are important. We need to work together and not just all try to run our own race, which is probably the way we've tried to do technology before. And learn from each other, work with the universities, collaborate across SMEs. So that brings me to the Minerals to Megawatts CRC bid. I'm really glad to hear everyone talking about it as if it's actually already a thing, but we're actually in a bid, and the team's got to go to Canberra in 3 weeks' time and actually convince the federal government to put the money into this amazing collaboration we've built. These are the research partners. I got involved early this year when we put in the expression of interest. and since then it's grown. University of Queensland's come on board, ANU, University of Southern Queensland, Mining 3. It's a very good collection of knowledge, as well as ARM Hub and other independent research groups. And this is not updated. Already referenced to Redflow was a partner, and we were also very sad. And there's more partners that aren't on there, but you'll hear from some of those people today. What we're trying to do is build an ecosystem to try to help this not happen, that a Redflow doesn't get through, and that small companies can find their market. And so you will see on there's technology developers, but there's also Powerlink and Energy Queensland and Zenith hasn't on there yet, who are going to buy this stuff. So that we're getting them to help the supply chain. I think I actually need to get Graham to come and do my pitch, because he actually just said what the pitch was when we go down. So there's other examples of CRCs working on decarbonisation, and we want to be part of that. But it's amazing what's already gone on and how we can collaborate with some of those. And this sort of diagram is just an example of all the interactions, but that's sort of what we're trying to create, all this melting pot. So finally, don't forget about yourself. It's really busy. You're trying to do things. You're trying to change the world. Don't forget to invest in yourself. So I'm really pleased. I don't think Shannon's here, but I'm actually doing an executive education course that UQ and Oxford are putting on, and it's for me to feed my soul and be better at being able to sell my ideas and transform Queensland. Really enjoying it and looking forward to going to Oxford in February for a week. So that's me, and thank you I've got lots more information if you want it on the CRC bid, but I just thought a quick overview is probably better.
So we'll open the floor to questions. Leanne, could we do that? Are there any questions from the floor? We have a microphone. No? Yes? Izzy? Microphone? Oh.
Hi, my name is Elaine Falcon. Just have a quick question in regards to the impact of the policies on USA with Donald Trump and the idea of them coming out of the Paris Agreement. Is there any influence of that you think it will affect the current synergy that Australia and Queensland is doing with all these companies that are in some way connected with that country?
I think it's a really interesting question, and we probably don't know, but I think just as Graham referenced to the change of government in Queensland and there's still support for this industry, I suspect that'll be the case in the US, but it will be a change or disruption. There has been a lot of commentary, and I think the PM talked about it, a flight of capital from Australia to the US because it's just so big. And to be honest, Cinetech went to the US to work out how do we get some of this, but ended up deciding, no, we'll stay here. So, there could be opportunities if that draw card away from Australia settles back, but I think we're on a journey and it's probably not going to change that much. There'll be a lot of rhetoric, but we've got to decarbonise and we've got to do this thing. There was one.
Jeremy Whaley from CD Power. Craig's already mentioned the challenges which the industry has in terms of capital. but having been in the industry for many years now, you witness a lot of great ideas, entrepreneurial companies grow and then suddenly implode due to other problems as well. As a board member, how do you guide some of those companies through that growth stage to actually make them successful? I know it's a very broad question.
So I'm quite wounded because, you know, I did have an instance where a listed company was not able to get its investors to keep investing. And I think one of the issues of technology development is you just keep needing more capital. Even if you've got revenue, there's always a next, investment. So I personally am very careful about technology development on a listed company because of that risk, but it is also the way that in Australia we develop companies. So anyone that thinks they're going to list a company and get $5 million and then everything will be great, well, that'll all last for a while and then you'll have to go back for more money. So you do need to be able to continually please the investment community. So the FPR Energy is private, so there's 3 major industry funders who have got deep pockets and are committed. So it's a little different for me as a director, and we've got a very clear task, but I've still got to perform, otherwise they're not going to continue to invest. In the CRC bid, what I didn't talk about was the other thing I've been doing since I got on board is I've been talking to all the funding agencies, and we've got the Future Made in Australia, we've got ARENA, we've got NRF and CFC, all wanting to deploy capital. They're supportive of the bid and want to see a pipeline of investment opportunities. And the comment that I had from one of them was, one of the CEOs of those organisations was, if you could help companies be investment ready, then we can try to close that loop. So that's still only part of it. You've still got to invest after that, but try to get through that valley of death. But yeah, it is what I think about a lot at the moment, and working with RFC Ambrian, I'm actually, really pleased with the way that they're really quite patient investors. So you've got to just I think you've got to find industry people who will support, and then the investment will flow if they see industry support.
Leeanne, I have a question for you. We're all very interested in the minerals to megawatts CRC. What are some of the most impactful or exciting projects within that you see?
Yeah. So I didn't want to use too much time, but I mean we've calculated there's $1.5 billion of benefits. Having heard Graham just speak, that was just in Queensland, so we might have to increase that, Scott. In economic benefits, and in 2 areas: enabling 2030, so rapid deployment, and building 2050, so that's investing in these, bringing through the new technologies. And I really do think Graham spoke very well about it. So the main areas we're looking at is supply chain, pre-deployment testing so that you can get to market standards, so you can do the testing to a standard where they don't exist already. Infrastructure, shared infrastructure, because it's just so expensive. Certification, workforce and communities. So there's a lot across our bid. I'll just have a quick look on my thing. So we've got Sylvia here. So I'll just pick on you, Sylvia. So she has 3 associations with the bid, but Lava Blue and SunDrive. So I'm probably not the best to talk about the detail. You can talk to Sylvia about it. But there's been a long history of working on research to get the fundamentals and the technology developed. and coming into this consortium, we can help that grow through the testing and deployment and attract federal government funding, but in an ecosystem. So what we're trying to do is grow an ecosystem. So, yeah, I think, does that help answer it?
Yes, I think so. And if companies have good ideas that maybe could be assisted by the CRC, what do they do?
So there's a number of people here. Scott Mitchell's the nominated CEO. Josh is up there somewhere. And we've got a program put together. We've got to win the right to do this. We've raised $80 million from industry, and we're asking the Australian government for 75, and it's over a 10-year period. So the programs we've got conceptually and front-end loaded, but there will be opportunities either at a program level or coming into the consortium. But we've got to get the right to play. We've got to win this, and then please, yeah, so get in touch with us and let us know what you might have that you might want to bring.
Jeremy? Absolutely. We do have some time.
Yeah, Jeremy Peters, Veco Group. Because the industry is so deep and broad, and there is a huge opportunity to create an ecosystem, and we're putting a lot of effort and focus into doing that. How do you think we tackle the customer side? How do we convince customers that this ecosystem, this supply chain, this depth of knowledge, capability, and experience is valuable to them? Because we can put as much effort as we want into creating this ecosystem, and at the end of the day, still be fighting against customers that don't see a value. How do we get that value proposition, in your opinion, across to our customers and let them see what we see?
So that's why I've deliberately gone out and brought the big customers in. So I didn't mention Stanwell before, but they're bringing their facilities. They're very integrated. They're coming to Canberra with us. So they actually want this. So talking to the customers here and also in other states, they want you to all be successful. So they actually realise they need to reach in and help. So, for instance, Energy Queensland, when I went through with Glenn Dallenberg, and I showed him who was in the consortium, he said, oh, we're working with them, so, which was great, because that's what we need. So, but in order for a large customer to place an order, so for instance with Cinetec, with Santos, they've got a commercial reality. So we need to reduce the issues that they might have to make an investment and de-risk it for them. So that's really what we're trying to do with the CRC. But it's really important to have them in the consortium. They'll actually be in advisory groups. We'll have ARENA, we'll have AEMO. AEMO is really interested because they've got to work through the grid integration aspects. They want to be part of it as well.
Do we have any more questions? Well, I'd like to thank Leeanne. Please put your hands together for Leeanne. And I would like to invite the next panellists to the stage, please.